And welcome to what promises to be such a fascinating episode of Dogma Debate, because I have Caroline here. And Caroline, she worked for Charlie Kirk and Turning Points USA, but she has turned away from that movement, and she's going by Baby Blue right now online and on TikTok because she's a brand new Democrat, so to speak. And she's come to tell us all about it. Caroline, welcome to Dogma Debate.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to share a little bit about what it was like to be crazy conservative, now turned progressive.
Wow. I mean, you're talking. I don't know that we were talking a little before the show. I predate, I think, crazy conservative. I was just conservative in high school, young Republicans. But that was you as well. I've watched your TikToks, and that TikTok, just to be clear, so people can follow you right here off the bat. That was Baby Blue on TikTok, or is there a
Babyblue.tx because I'm in Texas.
babyblue.tx? The best place to be a baby blue. We want a lot of baby blues in Texas.
There's more than you would think.
Yeah, hey, I mean, I know it. I mean, I look at the numbers and I'm like, even in the reddest states, it's not much more than like 68% red and, the rest blue. I mean, when people talk about a civil war, I'm like, there's no dividing line. Like, we truly are, the melting pot. Like, are we just going to be shooting at our neighbors? It's not going to happen. Like, there can't be one. Every state is just a little bit more red than blue, or a little bit more blue than red. So yeah.
Or barely even more red, and they just gerrymander their way.
Which there's that too. But yeah, so I became politically active in high school. You became politically active in high school, and you were pretty much almost, it seems to me from what I saw in your videos, almost immediately brought into the Turning Points world. Is that correct? Just tell me about what it was like growing up, how you became a young conservative, because most high school kids don't even think about politics, but I sure did, and apparently you did as well.
Definitely. I know most high schoolers are normal teenagers and don't think about politics and don't care about politics. But I think the community that I grew up in, specifically my family, I was block walking when I was 4 years old. I grew up going to
Wow.
the elections, election watch parties. I interned or campaigned for Governor Greg Abbott in 2014 before I could
Wow.
vote. So it really was an easy step for me to get into politics, just because my family of origin was very plugged into the political world. My grandparents were RNC delegates, so it was kind of just the default for me to take that Republican route, and it was a world that I knew that I could have access to. And so when I was in high school, I kind of decided, hey, like maybe I'll try this political thing. I've said in one of my videos that I was your typical teenager just looking for validation and belonging. And I knew that within the Republican Party and the conservative movement generally, they love young people. So I knew that, hey, like I can find like validation. Like there are people there that would be excited to have me.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't really say that I was especially fired up about conservative values as a teenager. I was much more interested in finding a place of acceptance. And so I got involved with politics. I started my high school Republicans chapter.
Wow.
And funny story about that are the debate team that I was a part of came to our first meeting and planned a socialist takeover by voting in their members. And so kind of got off to a rocky start with my high school Republicans chapter. And
Wait,
that,
the socialists came to your meeting and tried to vote in,
yes.
they tried to take over with socialism?
Yeah, it's really funny. They like flooded our first meeting with all of their people, and they were gonna just vote themselves into like the chapter, like executive positions. And I was just like, oh shit, like oh hell, what do I do?
That's amazing, though. But it just also makes me smile like, oh, right. High school was so fun. Like,
High school's, yeah, I was just like it, and I took it so seriously. I took it so seriously. I was devastated, and I look back now and I'm like, that's hilarious. Like
yeah.
that's so funny. And so it was around that time that I initially met Charlie Kirk. this was shortly after Turning Point USA was founded. So he was going around to a lot of larger Republican organizations. So I was in Harris County in Houston. So the Harris County Republican Party is a it's a machine. And so he was fundraising. So I went and heard him speak, went to a fundraiser dinner that he and his people were throwing. And that's where I got sucked in initially, because I had these cool, like this cool person, like, oh, like they should clips of him on Fox News. So he's on TV, so he's legit. And some of his like staffers were there who were just these cool early 20s. And so as a teenager who was awkward and needed validation acceptance, it was just an easy world to step into when they invited me into their group. So it didn't take a lot of thought or convincing. I just stepped right into it.
Yeah. And was that out of your high school, or was there a more central hub that you had to go to be a part of Turning Points USA, or were you like the chapter president at your high school? Or
So I didn't start a chapter at my high school because I already had the high school Republicans chapter. So they kind of team up with already existing. So this was kind of back then. I don't know if they do this now. I think they're more interested in having Turning Point chapters now. But back then, they would partner with college Republicans, high school Republicans groups, and provide, at the time, I was like, voter education, now propaganda material,
yeah.
and provide that sort of those resources to educate the students. And they also would bring students to CPAC in DC, and which is the Conservative Political Action Conference,
Oh,
which
we
was
know it.
described. Oh, yeah, I know.
It's where we
But
get our best clips and our best speeches are at CPAC.
yes, quality content for sure. And so they bring, so at the time, I guess they still do, they would bring a group of high schoolers and college kids to go to CPAC and be ambassadors to CPAC of Turning Point. And so I went when I was 17 in high school. And I was like, hell yeah, like free trip to DC, I'm in. And I mean, it was fun. It was cool. So
I
at the time,
bet.
I thought it was like conservative Super Bowl. Like it was great. Like I had like stars in my eyes because I got to see people that I've seen on TV. I got to
Yeah.
see media figures, and I got to feel important because to have access to these cool, successful people, I was hoping that some of that cool, successful energy would kind of rub off on me. And so that was, I think, a huge draw for a lot of the high schoolers and young college kids that went, because they got to feel important.
Yeah. I'm just curious because I think of CPAC nowadays. Was there any protests or anything? Were your contemporaries on the other side of the aisle outside protesting? Did you come across young people saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" Or no, was it back then? Because nowadays, I think CPAC would almost certainly have some protesters at it.
Right. No, back then it was one giant echo chamber. There were no protests, at least none that I were aware of. There weren't hecklers that I can remember, and if there were, like that was maybe like one person.
Yeah.
So it was basically just a big party.
Yeah. It sounds awesome. As I told you before we started rolling, I attended George H.W. Bush's inauguration when I was 16, and I was in heaven. I thought it was awesome. Yeah.
Right? Like, I
Yeah.
thought it was so cool. I mean, I was 17. We didn't have any chaperones.
Yeah.
So we got to be like, I got to feel like a little mini adult, which was really cool. But then when you're 17 and you get invited to a DC party you have no business being at, it
Yeah.
kind of sheds a little bit of light on what, like, how deep do those conservative values actually run?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's so easy to go because you're like, Mom, Dad, the president of the United States invited me to a party. Can I go? They're like, I can't. And then you
Yeah,
get
my
there and it's not exactly, they're not exactly enforcing the age restrictions on alcohol or anything.
no, not one bit
No, yeah.
exactly.
Because they want to keep the young people. They're like, turn a blind eye, let them drink a beer. It's no big deal. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Certain media figures buying shots for all the college Republicans at the bar. Like
Wow.
it's, oh yeah, like that was normal. Certain senators showing up drunk to an event they're supposed to speak at. Like it's
No.
great.
Oh, do you want, I mean, look, this episode, I want you to dish as much as possible, but
I know. I'm like, oh, I want to name names so bad, but I'm just like, well, I don't really have time for a defamation suit.
no, I don't think you do. Okay, so we'll let that one slide. So, so you finish up high school, you head into college, I'm guessing, and you stick with Turning Points USA. In fact, I would guess from what I saw in your videos, you became more active with Turning Point at that point.
Yes, I started the chapter at Texas A&M University, which now I believe it's a thriving Turning Point chapter. My spring semester of my freshman year, I got hired as a field staffer for Turning Point. So I went from being student activist to employee. And so what I did was I would set up on campus and table and sign people up for the movement and try to reach the liberals because obviously Texas A&M University is a liberal stronghold, but there were a lot of events that we did, um, things with the chapter, and then I went to some other surrounding universities to encourage them to start chapters as well, provide education materials to the college Republicans there. And that was kind of their activism model at the time, was just reaching these college kids, getting them on, like getting their contact info so that they're in this database, and pushing out content to them and trying to bring them into the chapter as well. And Turning Point would try and also recruit people to go to CPAC with them. And then this is around the time when they started doing their conferences. And so before, actually, the summer before my freshman year of college, I went to their first ever Young Women's Leadership Summit, which was in the suburbs of Chicago at the time. I think now they do it in Dallas. It's a huge conference in Dallas. But really, a lot of it was just trying to, I guess, normalize and just make the default option of being a conservative much more appealing to people. Because like you said, like when you're in college and high school, like, okay, politics, you're not worried about that. You're worried about going to a football game and like
Yeah.
being like going to like a date party or something. So getting involved in political activism sounds really lame.
Yeah.
But when
And
you
it
have
sounds even more so on the college campus, where obviously universities do have more of a liberal bent than most places, I would say. And I will say that, I mean, off the top of my head, I'm thinking, and you guys did an amazing job, though. I mean, you really created a movement in young Republicans. I mean, it's a thing now. I mean, it may very well have won Donald Trump the election last time around. Was the young bros that went Trump way.
Yep, and that haunts me.
Yeah.
That haunts me, and that's why I'm trying to shed more light on that. They've done a really good job at taking the playbook from other organizations that have done youth indoctrination and like youth voter education for decades, but they've made it much more flashy and much more culturally relevant. So rather than being like, do you want to be a politician one day? It's more like, hey, like we can all agree that like libs are stupid, right? Yeah, like it's just uh much more digestible and
Yeah.
accessible than it ever has been before.
I'm thinking of like And I'm curious. I'm guessing you had some converts. You said you would set up booths on campus and whatnot. I'm thinking of one of my friends who's a Mormon that I've had on the show who had to do a year of missionary work. And I asked him, I was like, "Did you convert anybody? You knocked on 10,000 doors. You had 20,000 conversations. Did you convert anybody?" And he said, "No, not a one." Tough sell, the Mormon thing. But
Yeah.
you guys, on the other hand, clearly had a bunch of converts. Are you personally responsible for some people walking around out there right now with MAGA hats on?
I mean, probably indirectly, because at the time it was much less MAGA. At the time, Turning Point was much more focused on just fiscal responsibility and limited government, period. Charlie was
Yeah,
like, don't talk about the social issues. That's what divides people. That's why liberals win, which we know isn't true. But like, it was those two issues. So we made it super oversimplified and easily digestible, and that's how like we're able to get people. And I don't know if I'd use the word convert, because I actually don't think that I we converted many people from liberal to conservative, because if you're a young adult, if you're like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, like, and you are calling yourself a liberal or a progressive, like, you already have those views in your head.
yeah,
The focus with tabling on college campuses was instead to get that low hanging fruit, those
yeah.
people whose parents may have watched Fox News. So it was already kind of like in the back of these kids' mind, like, that is what you do. That's what is normal. So that was much more effective in terms of building the ranks with Turning Point than necessarily trying to debate libs on campus.
But I
It
mean, there had to
was
have been some libs that saw your Turning Points USA booth and wanted to come up and engage you. That had to have been something of a normal occurrence.
I mean, a fair amount. Texas A&M is a very conservative campus, though.
Yeah,
So I think that there were probably other field staffers at more liberal universities that had that experience much more.
right.
But at mine, it was really just kind of like you were recruiting people for a party because they already agreed with you.
And kind of literally recruiting people for a party, because that is part of the appeal, and that any group that's trying to grow itself, particularly with young people, is that maybe this person is socially awkward, maybe this person isn't popular, and what you're really selling them is a pizza party every Friday night, and a group of friends, and people that are going to text you and see what you're up to and things to do. And I think that very often that is a selling point. It was, I mean, it kind of was for me when how I fell into the Young Republicans was pizza parties and donuts and coffee. A coffee. Oh, you got okay. Grown up stuff.
Right. Exactly. I think that you're hitting the nail on the head with that for sure. That it wasn't just like, hey, we're going to like join the movement. Let's learn about like fiscal conservatism, and that's real fun. Like,
Yeah.
no, it was much more like, hey, like, we believe in this, but we also hang out and like do these things together, and we're like-minded people. And it was certainly, there's a huge social aspect to it. Like, I think that Turning Point did a really good job of combining the social aspect that was really prevalent with like college Republicans, and then the actual voter education aspect that was involved, like part of the like Leadership Institute and that kind of organization, kind of fusing those together to
Right.
create this cultural social uh, ecosystem where you don't have to leave this echo chamber to go hang out with people. You can hang out with people within the echo chamber. And it's also going to continue to confirm what you're being told that you should believe.
Absolutely. And I'm just curious, who was funding Turning Point at that time? It seems like that might have been era of when that all that Coke money was going around, and I don't mean cocaine. I mean Koch brothers.
I didn't work in the fundraising for Turning Point, so I don't know specifically what donors beyond some of the early backers that were like millionaires like Foster Friess, who is a
Yep.
big early backer of Turning Point, as well as Uline. That was another big one. But back at that point, they already had these big money donors pushing and like backing them. So I think there probably were some like smaller donors, but I think they had some big fish pretty early on.
Yeah. Um, Now I'll just talk about my personal experience, and it actually kind of started at the inauguration that I went to. Was the first time because young Republicans in Marblehead, Massachusetts, it was 5 dudes, and they were my friends. So when we became then exposed to this much larger group of Republicans, was the first time that I saw some ugliness, and it's actually one of what started turning me away from the conservative movement, uh, particularly you know uh, against gay people. Get a couple drinks in people at a conservative Republican party, and a lot of slurs started coming out. Now, this was for me was late '80s, so and I've said this many times. I don't believe most Republicans are racist. As much. I mean, Trump supporters, that's one thing. There's a contingency, but when we're talking about
Right.
Republicans, I don't believe that. But at this time, I was also hearing racist things. I was hearing racist things. I was hearing homophobic things. And I was, a young guy. It was the late '80s. These weren't things that I was into. I was into punk rock music and, you know,
Nothing's
like,
more punk than Republicans for sure.
yeah. And there was no gay bashing or racism. We
Right.
hated that stuff,
Right.
but I started to see it at that time. Was there an ugly underside to the movement that you were witnessing at that time as well?
I think so, and I think that I even encountered that before I got involved with Turning Point, because in Texas, this was when the Tea Party was really starting, the hyper conservative contingent within the Republican Party. So I think there was starting to be that stronger rhetoric of anti-immigrant, that was really starting at that point. Uh, when I went to CPAC, I think that the focus at the time, especially with Turning Point and from a lot of speakers, was building a big conservative tent. And so there wasn't a lot of that language that I think we would probably be more likely to see now, actually, than we would back then. When So I went in 2015 to CPAC, and this was kind of leading up to and into primaries, like or the primary campaigning season. So not quite primaries yet, but this is when you started to hear a little bit more about Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Um, and so like he was at CPAC. Anyone who wanted to run under the Republican ticket was at CPAC and speaking, making their case. And so there were those typical statesmen, politician Republicans
That
that
was the era of Jeb Bush when he was the chosen one.
exactly. And I'll never forget one time, the first time I ever met Charlie Kirk, he said, "The era of the statesman is over."
Wow.
And this was in 2014. And I was just like, I was kind of confused about that. I understood it from the sense I'm like, well, like, yeah, people want to be engaged. Like, people want like someone exciting and fresh. But I don't quite think I understood the implications of that. In that what he was saying is that people want to be entertained. People want to be entertained and fired up. They don't want policy. They want simple, bite-size talking points. And so fast forward a little bit to 2016, uh, for the vibes, for lack of a better word, were so different at CPAC. From 2015 to 2016 is when there was that shift, that dangerous undercurrent really coming to the surface in the Republican Party. And so the summer of 2016, I remember, because I like you, I I wasn't a racist. I didn't hate immigrants. I was a theater kid. I didn't hate gay people. It wasn't, it was never, that was never a part of it for me. And so that's why Turning Point was attractive to me, because Charlie said, no social issues, just fiscal responsibility and limited government. Because I didn't understand why gay marriage was wrong. And I didn't understand why abortion should be illegal. But what I could get behind was this super milk toast fiscal policy. Like I could do that.
Yeah.
But then in 2016, when I was living with a bunch of Turning Point people outside of Chicago in the Liberty House, is what we called it, we went to get Tex-Mex one day, and a bunch of people, a bunch of my roommates put on their MAGA hats to go to this Tex-Mex restaurant. And this was in the height of the build the wall sort of refrain that you heard from the right. And I just remember feeling sick because I was just like, okay, you can be pro strong borders, but what you're doing right now by wearing that hat here into this Tex-Mex restaurant in the suburbs of Chicago, you are actively threatening these people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you are trying to intimidate them by wearing that. And that was a really key moment for me when there was that dichotomy of like, wait, I thought we were supposed to be like for people, for people who are Americans, because these are people in America too. And I just could not. That's what kind of started to break the veneer for me.
Interesting. And I will say that from my point of view, from my fascination with the conservative movement my entire life, what they wanted was what the entire movement actually runs on, which isn't money. They run on liberal tears. This is, they are mining for liberal tears. I mean, it's everything to them. They like upsetting people. They want
Exactly.
you to freak out. And that MAGA hat, I've had dudes walk up to me in Los Angeles and say to me, "What do you think of my hat?" It's like, who does that? But, he's like, "I'm out looking for trouble. And you
It's so
look
lame.
physically weak," which I am. I'm not afraid of you, but you look like a super liberal. So
Yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, even back then, like that was a huge part of it, was being contrarian and being a provocateur for no reason other than owning the libs.
yeah,
And that was, I think that that element of nastiness also stuck out to me. And it was something that I was never comfortable with. I never like anytime I would kind of get into that sort of combative, aggressively anti-liberal like stance, it never felt right to me. It just wasn't something that I was interested in. But I was told like this is what we do. Like we're here like when you fight the libs, like it shows just how weak they are. And when in reality, it's just a stupid game to make it seem like you're actually doing something important and actually making a point, which you aren't, because you're not able to make a point, because Turning Point doesn't actually teach policy and like fundamental understanding of their policies. They just tell you what to say.
yeah. I mean, I I'm one of these crazy liberals that like seeks out conservative media. Always have been. I remember listening to Rush Limbaugh back in the day, and people calling in and saying, "Rush, I just want to thank you so much for teaching me what to think." And I was like, "That is not a
Oh, that
compliment.
makes, yeah.
That is not a compliment."
Well, I mean, that was so key, because especially as a young person, and I talked about this in one of my videos, where all I wanted was acceptance and to be a part of the group. If I like this is a kind of group that punishes dissent and punishes actual debate, because if you disagree with what they're saying, suddenly you're out, and then you're like the conservative ire turns its eye on you.
Wow.
And it's not like it doesn't allow for critical thinking. It just wants you to parrot back what they're telling you to believe. And so when I was 18, 19, 20, I did not have some complicated understanding of conservative policy. So I couldn't form my own talking points. So I just would like consume conservative media and consume turning point content so that I would be able to hold my own in a debate, so that I would be able to talk about what I believed in an articulate way. And so I could be like Charlie Kirk. And that was something that really drove me, was I want to be the smart one that champions the values, but not actually put in the legwork to understand what I'm talking about. And I think that that's another problem with the whole owning the libs mentality, is that the focus is placed on making other people look foolish rather than actually understanding what you're claiming to be championing.
Yeah. And I don't think Charlie is as guilty as of this as Steven Crowder, but I'm always so unimpressed that he preps for a subject, then he goes out in public, puts out a table saying, change my mind on this issue, invites really young people, often under 20, to, without any prep, come and debate him on an issue that he's prepared for, and then he considers that owning the libs. It's always like, why don't you go debate a policymaker on that issue and see how well you do, rather than a random 17-year-old with a Jerry Garcia t-shirt on.
Exactly. Like what are you actually accomplishing there other than getting clicks on your monetized YouTube channel?
Exactly. So at this point, Trump is the candidate now. You're in Turning Points USA. Is this, when did you find your own turning point? Is this when things started to get ugly for you? I'm interested about the inner workings. I'm interested about Charlie Kirk, because I try and be as open-minded as I can, and when I see Charlie Kirk, I don't see an evil person necessarily. I could be wrong, maybe you'll fill me in, but there's certain people on the right that I'm like, I don't think I could stand to be in a room with that person, and Charlie doesn't give me that vibe. It feels like I could have a beer with him. I don't know if he drinks, but I could have a beer with him and have a conversation. Am I correct in that?
100%. The Charlie that I see now, I didn't know him super, super well. I wasn't one of the inner circle core people. So I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't super close with him and the inner circle people. I was more of a employee, like foot soldier. But I always regarded Charlie as being very level-headed and being very genuine, and he was very kind and like fun to hang out with. And so I was always kind of intimidated because I was like, successful person, like just kind of
Yeah.
like but I always felt like he was a good person. I never thought that he would get behind someone like Trump, because back when Trump was before Trump was the candidate for the right, he wasn't. I can't recall who Charlie's pick was to be the candidate, but it wasn't Trump. Like he used to be like a never Trumper, and
Yeah.
so after I left was when he kind of like like locked in on Trumpism, because I mean it was an attractive path to power, I
Yeah.
think.
It's the precious. I mean, power is the
Exactly.
precious, and Donald Trump has proven that with the Republican Party. They were all never Trumps. J.D. Vance said he might be America's next Hitler. But the precious
Mhm.
golden ring of power, it's just too alluring. Probably to human beings in general, like,
Right. And I
but
even
clearly
like
to the Republican Party.
yeah, and I'll admit sometimes like I'll catch myself thinking like, "Oh, Caroline, like why did you exit when you did? Like you could have been one of these inner circle people like there. Like you could have gone to DC, because Turning Point and organizations like Turning Point, like Leadership Institute or others, they'll like they'll platform you. They'll set you up and place you in these like rooms where decisions are made. And so like for like a while I would catch myself being like, "Oh, did I like did I screw up by having values and having convictions? Because I'm like, well, I kind of joke with my friends and like my husband that I look at Caroline Leavitt, who's the press secretary.
Yeah.
We know and love her so much. And I'm like, that's like dark Caroline. Like that's like what could have been, what could have been.
Yeah, you guys are probably roughly the same age.
Yeah, she's a year younger than me,
Wow, and
actually.
you're an attorney as well. I mean,
Yeah. And
you
so
could have been the press secretary
it
for the president of the
well,
United
that
States.
which scares me to heck about who's running our country. Like,
Oh,
um,
yeah, for sure.
but yeah, I never thought that Charlie was evil, you know?
Well,
I never
now
thought that.
there's a question, and I've watched your videos, and if you're covering for, and I always tell people that come on this show, this isn't TikTok. You don't have to use euphemisms for anything. So if you're covering for a child sex ring, I don't know that you're a good person anymore.
Yeah.
And Charlie
Yeah.
certainly, in my opinion, like, wow, the evidence is mounting and it's getting real close to the point where we can say conclusively, okay, now you're covering for a child sex ring. Like,
Right. Well, a couple things on that. I think that I've given this a lot of thought of is like, does Charlie believe what he's saying? Does he believe a word that comes out of his mouth? And I don't know because I don't know him anymore, obviously. I haven't talked to him in years. So, on one hand, okay, he believes everything he's saying. He totally believes in like racism, women should just be mothers, shouldn't have degrees and careers, like all that. Like,
was that ever talked about back in the old days?
no.
Yeah, I was.
No, not at all. They did try to get me to drop out of college
Really? Why?
to work full time for them,
Oh, okay. But not because women shouldn't be
but not because
educated.
women shouldn't be in college. But
Right.
I'm like, well, I'm like, was that also in the back of their mind too? But so he either believes these things that he touts, or he doesn't believe a word he's saying, but he uses his platform to say it anyway because that's what gives him power. So I don't know, like, I don't know which is worse necessarily. I would say this side is worse that to say these inflammatory and bad evil things without believing them just to rile people up. But if he believes these things he's saying, I also don't think you're a good person.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty bad either way.
either way, like you're in it, buddy. Like you're there, like either way, it's bad. And so the point about covering up for a child sex ring, let me tell you a story about when I was 17 at CPAC.
Okay.
So
Wow.
when
Here we go.
I've like so when I was 17, I had like never drank before. I wasn't a cool kid. I didn't go to parties. I was kind of awkward. And so I go to CPAC and I'm a high schooler. Turning Point brings all these like high school and college students and not like super monitored. And there's these politicians and there's these media figures and all of these all of these adults who said like have access to these college and high school kids. So me and two other girls, they were in college, we got invited to a party. And so I'm 17. We go to this party and it's in like a penthouse suite, like way up fancy and near a hotel. And this was like a you turn in your phone kind of party.
Whoa.
So you at the door, there's like a like bouncer, turn in your phone, like go inside. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm at a party. Like, wow. And there were there's at least one senator there. There was several people you'd recognize from Fox News, and then just other people that I didn't know who were just probably within that world. And there were not like other young people there. Like this wasn't like a party thrown for minors or for college kids.
Interesting.
So what haunts me to this day is that in retrospect, none of them even bat an eye at a 17-year-old being there. That was not like, that did not raise me, like, they let me in. Like,
Yeah.
I was clearly not like old enough to be around alcohol and certain drugs. Like, that was not.
You could barely get into a rated R movie at 17. Like you were.
Thank you. Thank you. And so I won't go into like too many details, but like, this was clearly not the first time that they'd seen like a 17-year-old. So I truly believe when everything on the right that they accuse people of is an admission.
It's projection.
And the call is coming from inside the house with grooming young people, whether it's through indoctrinating them ideologically or making young people accessible to people in power who don't have to play by the rules. So
Um,
thankfully, like, nothing happened to me. Like, I just had a bad night because I'd never drank before. So and I didn't know how to.
yeah.
And so
It's just also super creepy that you would let a young woman drink alcohol for the first time and become inebriated for the first time, because that is an incredibly vulnerable time for anybody. The first time you get
absolutely.
drunk and you don't realize that you've lost inhibitions, that you don't realize you just feel, different, but you don't realize, hey, I gotta
You don't know
keep my,
what you can handle. You
yeah,
don't know like how you're feeling. So thankfully, like the girls I was were like, okay, she's gotta go. Like, so
yeah,
they got me back to the hotel room, but there were a couple of people there who were like, no, she's fine. Like, she's fine.
yeah. Oh man, look out for the dude saying that the drunk girl's fine. She's
Mm-hmm.
fine.
It's like, oh, buddy, you're not fine. Like, you are the wolf in sheep's clothing for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so I think about that a lot, especially with all the Jeffrey Epstein stuff.
And the
Because
Netgate stuff.
yeah, like all oh, for sure. That was after my time. But then there were other people, like there would be these like speakers that would come to these conferences who were like, you would see them on Fox News, but they also would be chatting up all the girls at the conference and stuff. And I'm like, these are children. Like, what are you doing? Like, it's the calls coming from inside the house for sure.
Absolutely. Which does get me back to, so what was the when how did things change for you? How did you what what was it like when you decided that this wasn't the movement that you believed in anymore, and how did you get out?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like I told that story with red hats at a Tex-Mex place. It sounds super simple,
Yeah.
but that really did kind of crack the veneer for me because I was like, it kind of shed a little bit light on why are we doing this? Are we doing all this to fight for a better future, or are we doing this to be hateful to people who don't look like us? And so after that point, I was a little bit more on guard to what was being told to me. And then I ended up working after that summer full time in their media. So I was the like operations manager of their online like news publication. So I handled a lot of the content that would be pushed out by Turning Point. And after seeing
Was this before Charlie's podcast, or was this just in addition to the
this was before there were podcasts
yeah.
and stuff. I think he might have had like YouTube or something, but this was so early on. It wasn't as quite as much of a content machine as it is now. And so there weren't like podcasts, like we'd put out those stupid like meme videos and whatever, and the like inflammatory articles about like liberal colleges trying to silence conservatives on campus and push out that kind of stuff that would get old people scared and upset and share it on Facebook. Um, and so seeing that the upping the ante of the like just the intensity of the political moment was the priority over actual reporting and actual like pushing out actually quality content. really kind
What
of
about
opened my eye.
I mean, what we call fake news or made up news or whatever. Was there some of that going on, or was there some quality control where you wouldn't push something
Yeah,
out if it was actually totally fake?
yeah, there wasn't any of that to my knowledge. I would most of the content would go through me and or like another editor, and I never was told to post like fake articles or anything like that. So all of it was founded in reality. I think that sometimes it was presented in a light that had a much more of an inflammatory slant, but I don't necessarily think that there was any actual fake content going out. Um, I think that at the time, the the website and the content machine was trying to be like the conservative answer to like BuzzFeed or Vice,
Right.
rather than just trying to put out fake news to rile people up. So I definitely didn't see that. Um, but I started to like kind of realize like, oh, like there's clearly an agenda here. Like there's an agenda here. Like, and it made me think like, okay, if I'm putting out content with an agenda, then what other platforms are putting out content with an agenda? Because I took Fox News as Bible fact. Like I would watch like Fox News and be like, yeah, like this is it. Like this is the truth. Um, or like The Blaze with like Glenn Beck or whatever, like that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Like I would just be like, yeah, for sure. And then I kind of realized like, wait, are they doing the same thing that I'm doing? And again, that was another crack in the facade for me. Um, Starting to realize like, oh, actually, like I'm being lied to. Like I'm being duped actively by the right-wing political machine. And
Wow.
at the same time, that same right-wing political machine is telling me that the left is trying to trick me and the left is trying to dupe me and lie to me, all under the guise of this political elite trying to fight and dismantle America. And so seeing through starting to see through that and kind of like I kind of liken it to taking off like I was seeing through red, white, and blue colored glasses.
Yeah.
I like took them off and I realized, oh shoot, like this is all a facade. It's almost like it's the I got like the opposite of getting red pilled because when
Yeah.
their analogy of getting red pilled, like
Oh,
oh
they
you
love
wake up
that
and see
one.
how the world works, and I'm like no, like, that's not it at all. Um, and so that's when I started to kind of dismantle that ideology that had become completely baked into my brain. And it didn't take long. Like the more I just kind of pulled the threads of everything they claimed was true, the more it unraveled. And that set me down my path of deprogramming essentially. And fortunately, at this time, I was in college. I was studying political science and I was learning how the world actually works, not in the Republican fantasy sense. I was learning how actual policy is made and how the government actually works, especially internationally. And so seeing the truth in that from professors at Texas A&M University who are very objective. It's at the Bush School. It's not like it's the Karl Marx School of Policy. Like it's very objective and good like good quality education. So that's what helped me to deprogram and learn about the real world for the first time in my life.
You decided you didn't want a government so small you could drown it in a bathtub?
Yeah, I guess not. I guess I believe that Americans deserve better than starving and not having health care.
And so I guess that ultimately was where your journey did take you, though, is that you didn't just realize that there was a lot of BS on the right, but you actually found that you probably aligned better with the left. And that's where you are now, why you are baby blue.
It took a long time for me to I kind of liken it to um I had to come out to myself as a liberal. I
Wow.
had I had to admit to myself that like oh shoot, like I like I think I'm a liberal. And the implications of that were just ginormous because, like, I can't tell my family. Like, I can't tell my family that.
Wow.
I can't tell my friends, like, am I still a Christian? Like, am I not going to be saved now if I vote Democrat? So the unraveling didn't stop there. Um, it didn't stop with trying to, like, all of a sudden I was like wearing a like pink women's march hat, like marching like liberal activists. It was much more internal because I had genuinely been raised to believe that Democrats and liberals hate America and are trying to ruin our country. Like, I thought liberals were either evil or stupid.
Wow.
And so to realize that that had been a lie too, I had to really confront what did that mean for me? And it was a really long time before I actually would call myself a liberal. Um like I don't think I voted in 2018. And then in 2020 I voted for Joe Biden. And I remember that that was the first time I'd ever voted for a Democrat. Um, and then it really became more something I owned at that point. But it took years
Yeah.
to actually admit to myself, because it wasn't even just like, oh, I was wrong. Like, I've learned new information. I changed my mind. It was, I was tricked. And you hear about, like, why do people not leave cults? Because they don't want to admit that the way that they view the world is a lie. And I
Yeah.
think that that's the fundamental thing with these conservatives who are realizing that they've been tricked by this machine, is that you have to admit to yourself, hey, I was duped. And that was by design. But there is a path forward. And so I ended up, like, eventually, like, my family does know now that I'm more liberal, but that doesn't, they're not okay with it. I mean,
Really?
yeah, I mean, a family member very close to me used the word disgusting.
Wow.
And, like, my family is not accepting of it whatsoever. Fortunately, I have two sisters and a brother. Both my sisters are pretty pretty liberal as well. Um, I think that they saw me go through the conservative machine, kind of, and be like, oh, like,
Yeah.
what is this? And saw me have, like, my awakening, and they also um, decided for themselves what they wanted to believe in. I think me and my family, we're all pretty justice minded, and
Yeah.
so kind of, especially after George Floyd, that really woke up something in me and my sisters as well.
Interesting. Um, you did mention that, Democrats are going to hell, and am I even a Christian anymore if I am? I mean, it seems to me that Christian nationalism and the modern MAGA movement are one, and Charlie Kirk seems to be a pretty loud and proud Christian nationalist. Did you come across anybody in the movement that wasn't also simultaneously, I mean, back when you started, probably just Christian before Christian nationalism as we understand it now exists, but is it all just one thing? The Venn
At this,
diagram's just a circle.
I think it's a circle at this point, which is so scary, because when you do fuse that religion with political views, that's how you get the Crusades. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Oh.
not
Oh.
that's the danger. That's the dangerous fusion that we're dealing with here. It's not just like a cultural, like, oh, well, I'm a Christian and I vote red. Like, it's much more dangerous than that, because when you're on a mission from God, you play by a different rule book. And
Absolutely.
so I think the rise of Christian nationalism has just been such an insidious part to getting us where we are right now. And it's completely, completely by design. Um, because you see the Heritage Foundation, everything is all about a biblical worldview,
I mean, yeah. Project
and they're
2025
tied.
lays it out pretty straight. And Russell Vogt is the architect, and he's high-ranking official in the Trump
Exactly.
administration now.
Exactly. It's completely by design. After I left Turning Point, they had a branch that they called TPUSA Faith. And so I don't think this is super well known because I don't think it ended up being a super successful. I just don't know what's become of it, but they would hire staffers to go to churches and essentially tell like people at these churches like you have to vote Republican. Like Jesus would be a Republican. Jesus would like be a conservative. Like to save America from like the liberals. The liberals want to like persecute you as a Christian, and like completely exploited that Christian conservative fusion. And I think that's where the Christian nationalism has really, really reared its ugly head. And it's in a very scary way, because I genuinely think some people in my family question my salvation. I'm still a Christian. And so I think there are people in my family that question my salvation and question whether I actually am a Christian just because I voted for someone with a D next to their name.
A guy, look, I'm not a huge Joe Biden fan right now, but a guy with a D next to his name who legitimately prayed every day and went to church, not in a phony politician way. Joe Biden, all the things you could say about him was he was a devout Catholic. I know. I grew up a devout Catholic, and I know one when I see one. And Joe Biden, a trillion times more Christian than Donald Trump, easily.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't have an affair with a porn star
No,
that we
or
know of.
yeah, or whatever
I'm
other
just
shady
kidding.
doings we got in the
Right. Like,
Trump.
yeah, exactly. Like he's like he doesn't say what was it like 2 Corinthians when he's trying to quote scripture. So like
It's a whole ball of wax right there, right? 2 Corinthians. You know what I'm
right.
hilarious. But this kind of gets me to where I wrote to you that I wanted to talk about hope. Is there hope? You've been on the inside. Your family members are still on the inside of this movement. Uh, it seems like it's getting uglier and uglier every day, and I don't believe it's a democratic movement at all anymore. As Heritage Foundation and Christian nationalism, I think they would gladly replace our democracy with a theocratic fascist regime of some sort. And the thing about fascists is the best way to stop them is don't give them power, because once they got it, taking it away from them, next to impossible. I'm talking to a political science major. It's nothing you don't know.
Right.
But yeah, so I I'm asking you from me because I don't have a lot of hope. Is there hope? You fell away. You changed your mind on this movement.
Yeah. I think your point about just the willingness of the right to cede power to someone who's so power hungry is what's really scary. I think what scares me the most is that you wouldn't see an executive consolidating power this much if he ever thought someone on the other side would have power again.
Yep.
That's what terrifies me to my core. So from that just political governance standpoint, that's what pushes back against hope for me. But what does give me hope is that after I made my first TikTok, I've had, I mean, at this point, I would say hundreds, probably people commenting or messaging me saying, "Hey, I used to be a conservative and now like I saw the light and I'm out." So there are people that do see the light. And one thing that really, really gave me hope is the more than I think over like probably 10 or 11 fellow former Turning Point staffers who have reached out to me and
Wow.
said, "Hey, I know that this was a scam. Like, and I like, thank you for speaking out. Like, I got out. Now I'm a progressive or now I'm a Democrat."
Yeah.
So there are people that are waking up. And I think that getting the message out that liberals aren't that scary. Liberals literally aren't that scary. It's not that serious. It is that serious, but it's also not that serious to say that you value human dignity and other people. Getting that message out that there is a path forward. Like, if you are having doubts about the world that we live in, that's okay. Because honestly, if your ideology were solid, they should be able to withstand your doubting.
Yeah.
So let yourself doubt, let yourself explore the nitty gritty of this platform that you're supporting, and really decide if that's something you align with. If you align with people, with children being ripped from their mothers just because their skin is a different color and sent to a country that they've never been to before, like, are those the values that you want to support? Like, do you support women dying in an emergency room because they don't have reproductive care? Like, that's the world you want to live in? And if you say yes, sure. Like, if you can honestly say that you are okay with someone who's lived in this country for decades being deported to a country they haven't been to since they were 8 years old, like, if that's something that you can get on board with, fine. Like, be true to yourself. I fundamentally disagree, but hey, if you can honestly look in the mirror and sleep at night, like, I can't save you if you believe that. But
Sadly,
then
many
there
do believe that, but we live in a country where it's the margins that determine who our leaders are and what government we have. And you don't need to convert 46% of the country. You just need to convert 2% of the country. And that's that.
exactly. And I
But
think
that
that
sadly assumes we're going to have another fair election in this country.
right,
And that is not an assumption I'm willing to make. I had a Trump supporter on 2 weeks ago, and he said, "Oh, dude, you're just making it up that Trump won't give up power." I'm like, he tried to hang on last time. Did you not notice the Capitol
yeah.
being
And
stormed?
now he has, like, now he's turning ICE into his own personal police force.
Mm-hmm.
So I also, like, share those doubts that we're going to have um a fair election, and if we do have a fair election, that those results will be recognized.
Yeah.
Thinking about currently in Texas, there's an effort to redistrict mid-decade, where we have Trump calling up Governor Greg Abbott and saying, "Hey, buddy, like, let's redistrict so we can add 5 more GOP seats to Congress." So there's that level of just insidious stealing of elections done by the right. Like, the
Yep.
efforts we're doing right now in Texas to stop that, that's the true stop the steal, because the right is trying to steal these districts. But then we also have, like, will he honor results of an election? And I don't think so. I think they've laid the groundwork for a very, very long time. Back in 2016, when Trump won, I this is a it's a really strange kind of, like, mental gymnastics thing for me, because I was like, "Oh my gosh, like, wow, like, we do have a democracy. We do have fair elections," because I was primed to believe that Hillary Clinton was going to steal this election through voter fraud. Like, I was primed to believe that. This was back in 2016. So
Wow.
we're not even talking back up in 2020 and then in 2021 with the January 6th terrorist attack on the Capitol. So, like, these seeds have been planted for a very long time, and I think we're just starting to see the fruits of that.
Yeah. And people I talk to are like, look, I would love to have a democracy, but the Democrats can never have power again. They want to, and then laundry list of fever dream insanity shit from they want to, eat babies to who knows. But I
Right.
mean, like, we can't ever let you have power again because of Joe Biden. I mean, look what he did. He passed an infrastructure bill. What was it he did again? I don't. What?
Right, something that saves my car from hitting potholes driving to work every day. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, this is where we are. So The thing I've tried so many times is to convince people that actually some progressive fiscal policies are better for everybody, particularly the working class, obviously, but everybody in general. I mean, you look at countries with what they call the Nordic model. People have longer lifespans, more vacation time, a higher happiness index, free
You mean
healthcare.
liberal fiscal policies?
Yeah, see, that's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah,
But I'm like,
exactly.
wouldn't you like a longer lifespan, a higher happiness index, more vacation time?
Right. Liberal policy is why we have a weekend.
Yeah,
Like if the
40-hour work week,
right, like
clean
that's how
food, clean water.
right, like exactly. I I'm very afraid of all the deregulation, and I think a lot of the especially a lot of the women, like you have this trad wife movement of these women who are just like ceding their power back to men because that's what's cool
Cooking
on
them
the
great
right.
meals, though.
Right, exactly, like
Today, for
making
my
biscuits.
man, we're having.
Like I could never. Like you'll like my husband's talking, I'm like, go find something. I don't know. Like that. Sorry, I know like liberals gonna be like, well, he's gonna leave you. And I'm like, probably not. Like, but they're like, it's just so crazy because it's like your ability, your freedom to wear pants came from feminism. Like really? Like your freedom to have a debit card and drive a car came from feminism. Like you are living the feminist dream,
Yeah,
but you're willing to give that up?
I think it was 1971 was when women could take out loans.
Right.
It's
It's
recent.
insane. Yeah. It's so recent. And they're, I mean, actively trying to undo that in the name of American values.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to end with some hope, and then it turned out you and I are both of the
I know, I
like-minded
know. Well,
hopelessness.
my hope is that there are people waking up. There are people that are seeing through the BS and they're seeing that they are being lied to and they're opening their eyes. I can't help people that are just unwilling to look at objective fact because they live in a completely different reality. But there are people that are leaving the movement. And like you said, we just need that 2%. We just need like a little bit of people to wake up and realize that they're being lied to by people that are funded by billionaires.
Yeah, absolutely. And, back to Epstein, that did seem to wake some people up for a second. Everybody said Trump's going to do something to distract. What's it going to be? What's it going to be? It's going to have to be huge. Oh, a war? What is it going to be? And almost in a genius move, it was okay. You guys are upset about. How about I arrest Barack Obama? And
Well, yeah, exactly. Like just
suddenly,
the
all those people that were out because of the Epstein list are like, hey,
right. Suddenly it's 2016 again.
yeah,
And he's talking about arresting Barack Obama, who's just living his best life, like doing podcasts and stuff, who it's insanity. I haven't even like formed an opinion on it other than what the like what are we doing?
I
And
know.
you would think that that would wake people up because it's crazy. But again, they live in a
Excuse me, Donald Trump, you arrested him, charged him with 32 crimes. So now you're upset because we're charging Obama? Yeah, but Trump committed the crimes.
right, yeah, exactly. Well, back in 2014, like I genuinely believed that Obama was going to declare martial law. So that's how deep the brainwashing goes that they like it's been primed from the start.
My first ever video to go semi-viral was like a couple weeks ago. I got over 500,000 views, and all I said was, America's starting to look a lot like my Trump-loving, MAGA hat-wearing uncle told me America would look if we elected Obama. Like, this is
Thank you.
this is the exact
Thank
country you
you.
were so afraid of. There's going to be masked, plainclothes men on the street grabbing you without ID. Like, this is the exact thing you told me. Martial law. There's going to be the military is going to be in the streets. I live in Los Angeles. The
Oh my
military
gosh.
is in the streets. Plainclothes, masked men are grabbing people and throwing them into unmarked cars. This is the exact America you told me we would have if we elected Obama.
The mental gymnastics are crazy, and the double standard is the standards are a mile apart. You know
Of
what the
course.
right can do, like, is what the left boogeyman is imagined to do.
Hmm. Well, I think you should keep at it. You're making a difference. I'm glad to hear people are reaching out to you. You want to remind everyone where they can find you on social media so they can support you in this effort?
Yeah, I'm on active on TikTok at babyblue.tx. Same handle on Instagram as well. Those are really the two platforms that I'm active on right now, but maybe I'll be doing more in the future.
We sure hope so. You're the real deal, Caroline, and we're so glad that you're doing what you're doing. And let's see if we can shift that little 2% and then have a free and fair election. If we could do those two things, maybe we can get our way out of that. And that is the hope. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Of course.